Now, welcome to the One-on-One with Wesley Chu. My name is C. Robert Cargill. I was a guest of honor last year. Some of you con regulars may know me from having been around and very loud for about 10 years now. And I've been very fortunate in that my career took off recently, and in the past few years I've been able to put out books and movies and such. But what I feel extraordinarily fortunate about is the fact that I came in as a writer at the same time as an amazing crop of young writers, and that we're all coming up together. People like Chuck Wendig, Max Gladstone, Mer Lafferty, Sam Sykes, and one of my favorites of this group is the gentleman sitting next to me. Last year, when they asked me who we should consider having as a guest, I said, you guys should ask Wes Chu. For those of you that aren't familiar with his work yet, I hope you will become familiar with him. But I'd like to introduce you to a wonderful human being, an interesting as hell dude, Wes Chu. Yes, please clap.
Hey guys, it's Sunday, so we're in the final stretch, and thanks for sticking around and hanging out with me. This has been probably the most amazing 40 weekend I've spent as a writer. Definitely one of the most professionally fulfilling times I've had since my career started. Which, Julie, when did your first book come out?
My first book came out in May of 2013.
My first book came out in May of 2013.
Yeah. Like I said, I came in at a very interesting time.
Yeah.
And really, and all those people are your close friends as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many amazing people and so few douchebags, I think, in our crop. So few. So few.
No, it is, we filter those guys out.
We do.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting just group of people. It's very diverse, and it's very just so many brilliant people that make you feel like such a craft writer.
No, that's not true at all. But honestly, it's like everybody's very friendly. We all hang out. We all video game together now. And I was saying, I was just telling Jess, it's not quite Marvel Heroes Online, but you guys can play Package Shot with us.
I would love to.
Let's do it.
Yeah, this is going to happen now. You guys have just seen that. But so, yeah, let's get started and talk about, let's do a little bit of biography. We talked about this last night. We just want to briefly go over the biography before we get into, the deeper stuff. But you have led a very interesting life. You have done a number of kind of crazy things in your previous careers until you found your true calling.
Okay.
You were a stuntman.
Yes.
You were a male model.
That's right. Male model makes a lot of different things, okay? A male model is also the guy in the hemorrhoids brochure. Okay? So let's keep that in mind before we go any further with that.
Yeah, well, you
What
did
were
have...
some of your top assignments?
Okay, I'll clear that. So my very first big gig was a Hanes commercial, actually. It was a Hanes commercial with Michael Jordan. And there was like a whole series. That's when Tagless t-shirts first came out. And basically I was dancing on screen trying to scratch an itch. So that was my break in.
Well, and you talked about the fact that at the time you were like, this is my big break. I'm gonna get to hang out with Michael Jordan.
Yeah, you don't actually see my face. If you see the commercial online, it's people like this. But it was good paying work, and I did some billboards for like the Chicago Marathon. A lot of times I'm like that dude prescribing you pills in the brochure.
You're on vacation with your lovely wife.
I'm on vacation in the hot tub with my lovely wife with a mariachi band playing in the tub. What's the funny one? Let's see. It's always a lot of there's different tiers of modeling, so it's never the good-looking people. I'm part of the real people crew, so yeah, I mean it's something that you do for fun, something you do on the side, and eventually sometimes you find work, and sometimes you just have a good time.
And stunt work.
Stunt work, yes.
You've done a number of interesting things there.
Mm-hmm. So I started out a long time ago, and I do some I practice Kung Fu, specializing in Tai Chi, Bagwashi. Does anybody know that stuff? Anybody watch like Jet Li in the one? He was like walking in circles.
I just literally rewatched the one about a month ago.
That's Bagua. That's my jam. Okay, so I've done some stuff work on the side. I've done some preliminary work for did some for Batman. Did something for
The Dark Knight.
I was a bonsai chef in Fred Claus. I almost cut Rachel Weisz. That would have been a disaster. Like, you know what? I did a scene in the teppanyaki table, and they turned the thing on. So they turned the thing on. I'm not a bonsai chef, but for some reason, instead of hiring like an actual bonsai chef, they hired me. So I'm doing it, and I burned my hand was like half burned off. But that's so it's like small stuff like that. Many times a lot of like B flicks. I'd be like team member number 5, gangbanger number 3. I would run. I get my ass kicked a lot.
You're kind of like, for a while, you're kind of like Tony Leone, from back in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, you're the one Asian dude in the gang.
Who you always recognized. You'd see him and he'd walk on like in Die Hard or something, and he always had the long Fu Manchu.
They didn't see, but that's the guy that like he had like recognition value.
Yes.
I wasn't even that. I was like the dude with the helmet that goes and see,
It did take him a while to
Yes.
start getting recognized.
And those are the guys who day in and day out get their ass kicked or get shot or get beat up, and after a while they somehow like obtain a following, and then they go, okay, you can take your helmet off now. Have at it.
So, okay, and you also, you worked in the financial world for a spell,
Yes.
right? What did you do?
So when I was 16, I think I told this story before actually. When I was 16, I wanted to be a writer. So I told my dad. My father was an English professor, and back in the 70s, it was a good thing to be an English major. Times have changed. So I went up to him and I'm like, Dad, I've read like 20 Piers Anthony books, and
Because we all read 20 Piers Anthony.
What did you quit? Did you read Piers Anthony?
I quit, I think, about book 18.
Yeah, me too. It's like the color of her panties or something like that.
Yes.
I think right when I read the color of her panties, I'm like, what the hell's a panty? And then when I found out what it was, because I was pretty naive back then that's when I quit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, this is not funny.
Yeah. So I told my dad I wanted to be a writer, and my dad was like, no, son, your life will suffer. So I did. I became I went into computer science and went into consulting after I graduated, and then the kind of stuff I did you could really only utilize in like large financial institutions like insurance companies and banks. So I spent about 15, 17 years, what I say, chasing that mistake, and coming full circle to becoming a writer. But I mean, in hindsight, it was probably the best decision I've ever made, because I've never had to like write to eat. I didn't like graduate at 23 and like 22 or whatever, and like become an English teacher, which I could have burned out pretty easily, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I always joke that your time money paid for my first book. So thank you.
So what was the catalyst? What was the inciting incident, if you will, to getting you to sit down and write your first book?
It was late 2005. I mean, I think I got really serious into martial arts, in the early part of 2000s, and I had this Tai Chi teacher who was like one of those like urban legends because he was so damn good. When he fought, he was like, he was spectacular. So then he lived like an hour and a half away. So for like 6 days a week, 3 hours a day, I would drive after work and like train with him until like 10 p.m. And I got really, really damn good. And there's something called Fa Jing. Does anybody know what that means? Fa Jing is like basically exploding energy. It's kind of like, when you swing a baseball, you're not swinging with your arms, you're swinging with your feet, your whole body. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch, when he doesn't actually move that much, it's because he's actually using his legs to generate energy instead of, using his muscles here. So Fa Jing is basically being able to punch without actually moving that far. It's just like this. And that's kind of like the ultimate level, is like hitting level 90 in Warcraft. So I mean, I was getting on my way there, and then I think it's like I realized one day, you know what? I got no friends. I don't go out. All I'm learning to do is beat some. I spend like 6-7 hours a week training on a sword, and I'll probably never stab anybody. And that's kind of a real regret for me. It's kind of like
Just let that one sink in for a moment.
it's kind of like yes, it is great to not stab somebody, but if you're gonna spend your entire life, like I was talking to my teacher like a week before that, and he said the same thing. He was like, he's one of those guys who were like really rich as a kid, but instead of like doing something with that money, like create a financial empire, he goes, I want to be a kung fu master or whatever. So he like bought the city block near Skokie when he moved over there, and that's all he does is teach. And he's got like 6 students because he charges so much money and he doesn't care because he's rich. So, but he's like, yeah, I've spent my entire life training. I've never ever beat somebody to a pulp. And I'm like, and it's kind of the same thing. So I'm like, what am I doing? What? I mean, I love what I do, but I really want to write a book. And I remember like 15 years ago, I wanted to be an English major and write a book. So I basically dropped everything, quit all martial arts, and and just started writing my first crappy book.
Was it now was the first book you wrote the first book you sold, or was it like as Bradbury famously said, if you want to become a writer, write your first book, then go into the backyard, bury it, go back inside and write your first book?
I wrote that first book, and it's 180,000 words. I called it a low fantasy, and it's a piece of shit.
So it is not your first book.
The name of the book is Woes, Toads, and Crossroads. Okay, and yeah, it was really bad. It was really, really bad. And in hindsight, it was probably the most important book I ever wrote because I literally made every mistake. Fart jokes in there. I was probably
Oh, so it's a Sam Sykes novel. Sam is one of our friends, and he's very proud of his fart jokes.
I actually might recommend him to become tomorrow next year.
He should.
I think he'd be great at it.
Oh, Sam would love that. Sam. Everybody, these
place.
people would love Sam.
Yeah, he's so. Yeah. Anyways.
You guys would love Sam. He's one of us. He's one of us in a big way. But yeah, no, I have those terrible books off in a file, and I refuse to get rid of the file because it's always there to remind me that.
Would you ever actually open that file up and read it?
I have.
You have. How was that?
So bad.
Like I have that file. Like it's still in my book folder on Dropbox, and I'm always staring at it. I'm like, because my dad actually liked the book. He's like, son, you should brush it out one of these days and just give it a good edit and republish it. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, I tried. My first books were written before I became a film critic. And as I've talked about several times, I spent my 10 years as a film critic as kind of an advanced graduate course in storytelling. I never took it from the point of view of I am better than the filmmaker and I am going to break down and critique this film. I looked at it as I'm going to learn from this film and I'm going to share this experience with other readers and other film lovers. And I learned storytelling through that. So 10 years of training like that, and then you go back and look at that book and you go, oh, this is dog shit.
Did you do a lot of walking?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There was some walking, not a lot, because I didn't write a fantasy novel, which is pretty much that's half of most fantasy novels.
My guys walked around a lot.
Yeah, no, most of mine were set in cities, so they could take cars. But yeah, no, it's really hard to read. And yeah, I've had people go, have you ever thought about, maybe pulling it out? And it's like, no, that stays in the file where it is. And if I like any of those ideas, I'll put them in a better story.
I can't even read stuff that I wrote like 2 years ago.
It's hard.
Yeah, because I had a partial that it was a half a book, 35,000 words. And it was good enough that Tor wanted to buy it, but at the time I was like, well, it's not the right time for me to work on it. And now I'm coming out of contract with Tor, looking for a new one or whatever happens, and I dig it up, I still sell it, but I'm like, you know what? I think I'm past that now, and there's more than just, you know, pushing out books. I actually want to really enjoy what I'm doing, and for me to get back to this world, I would need to rewrite the whole damn thing, even though it's probably ready. So, yeah.
So, okay, so you wrote this terrible book, and where do we come to your first published book?
All right, so
Lives in Tao.
after I realized that Wolves, Toads, and Crossroads was a piece of shit, I got drunk for like a week, and then started working on Lives of Tao. And then I got sidetracked by World of Warcraft. I was a guild officer, like the #1 guild on my server. And I was actually the recruitment officer, which means I was like the gatekeeper for Epic Loots. I was like, basically the most important guy on the server. And that derailed me for what, 2 years? 2007, 2010? I could have been published 3 years ago, okay? 3 years earlier.
But you would have come up with a different group of guys.
Yeah, that's true. You've been like, I won't say who, but you know.
we can have that discussion
later
after
on.
the panel.
But yeah, I don't know those guys.
Yeah, it's a very different. Yeah, it's really weird how the movements go. It's like every 6 to 7 years is a completely different movement. We were just on a panel together with the lady matriarch of the previous generation, if you will. If the generation isn't the right word.
Lady matriarch.
That's who she is. No, Mary Robinette Kowal is an amazing woman, super talented, multiple Hugo Award winning author, who is kind of, calling her the lady matriarch is the best way to describe her, because that's who she is in the social structure. But it's a very different group of folks than the group that we're coming up with.
So who are the patriarchs of this current generation?
We don't really have one yet because we're all still young.
Would it be Chuck?
Well, Wendig is probably
I
up there. Chuck Wendig, for those of you that don't know, is definitely he definitely is one of the centerpieces
right.
of the group. But yeah, it's going to take a few more years for everything to kind of shake out and see who sticks around, who gets tired of it.
It's kind of like Highlander.
We're working on it. What's going to happen at the end of this panel is he's going to punch without using much of his arm and take my power. And he'll be writing Hollywood movies.
So 2010 or 11, I forgot which. I don't know. I'm terrible with dates now. I have no idea what year it is, when my birthday is. But I think 2010 or 11 in March. Angry Robot Books open submission. So for 1 month, anybody can submit to them, and they got 955 submissions. And then from that point on, everybody can submit to them like a query and like 3 chapters. Then they whittled it down to like 600. People got 3-chapter requests. 65 people got full requests. 25 new acquisitions. 5 got deals.
Who were the 5?
I was one of those 5. So it was Laura Lamb, Cassandra Clark, not Cassandra Clare, Lee Collins, myself, and Lee Battersby. And from that point on, I kind of called it like a Thunderdome of publishing, because it was like I had to wade through a sea of manuscripts.
955 ends a 5-man leave.
There was a stream of dead bodies all over the place. There's a lot of death going on these days, isn't there? But so I was one of those 5, and then my first one came out. Lives of Tao came out in April 29th, 2013. So I think May 4th or 7th, whatever, was the official date.
We may have actually had the exact same release date.
I think so.
It's entirely possible. Because we actually met just after, 3 months after that, when we both went to our first World Cons as writers.
Right.
Because you had been to the one previously.
Yeah, it was a ShyCon.
Yeah, you went to ShyCon, but you weren't there as I've been published. Whereas this time around, you were there for BarCon in Lone Star Con in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I had a contract in ShyCon, but it's really different.
Yeah.
When the book's not out.
Well, and everybody treats you different.
Right.
Like, because the young authors will come up and they'll be like, "Oh, I just got my first contract," and you're like, "That's cool.
That's precious.
That's adorable." But not in like a patronizing way, but in a way like, you know, yeah, we've all been there, and we all know that that means, who knows?
Right.
But once the book comes out and it's been reviewed and people like it, and you start going to cons and getting to know all the other writers, then it's like, oh, hey, yeah. Because I remember when I showed up there, the only person I knew there was Wendig, I knew him from online.
Okay.
Because he was a fan of me as a film critic and had followed me on Twitter, and it was the very early days of Twitter still, and I read several of his tweets, and I'm like, I like this guy's funny, writes interesting stuff, followed him back, started reading his self-published work, really liked him, and he sent me a copy of Blackbirds,
Okay.
and asked me if I could blurb it.
And honestly, Chuck's a really good dude. I mean, he's got a thing he does online, but if you ever meet him, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
And he's really wise.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in learning about writing, nobody writes or collates more information online about how to write than Chuck does. And he is very quickly becoming the Vonnegut of this generation in terms of being able to come out and explain, here's the shape of a story, here's what a story looks like, here's what writing looks like. But yeah, he when I showed up, he's like, hey, Cargill, come and meet everybody. And I remember it was you and Sam Sykes and Max Gladstone and a couple other people hanging out in that really crappy bar. And we sat and drank for hours and just talked and started sharing, stories. And it was all, hey, do you have a copy of your book? Why, yes, I do. And handing each other copies of the books and starting to get to know each other and trading Twitter names so that we could start following each other. And then here you go several years later. It's like, yeah, now we all hang out together and we message each other every time a con comes up. It's like, are you going? Because if you're going, I'll go.
We all coordinate. I mean, it's like in my 20s I had my going out friends and everything, but really this is like a tribe.
Yes.
Yeah. And like all my friends, they all moved out the city because they're losers. But I'm joking. We all have kids now, and they're like I see them like once or twice a year, and I talk to them once or twice a year. But these are the guys every day when I'm sitting ass in chair and I'm working, these are the guys I turn to and say, hey, what's going on? How's everything going? And when people put their updates on Facebook and Twitter, this is who we hang out with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the book comes out and does very well. Did they sign you immediately to a 3-book deal, or did they wait to see how the first one did?
They signed me to a 2-book deal.
Okay.
And by that time I got an agent. And my agent is all about, and then I have the philosophy in my career is, I'm always betting on success. So when you go for a 2 or 3-book deal, usually 3-book deal offers you definitely more security, but a 2-book deal allows you to renegotiate for a new contract faster.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's bad because if you don't do that well, then you get less money next time around. Sometimes it's good if your books do really well. So I signed a 2-book deal with Angry Robot, and they actually pushed Deaths of Tal, the book 2, up from March 2015. March 2014. Terrible years. March 2014 to November 2013. So that 2 books come out that year. And then because of that, they would sign me to a third book. They wanted more books for me, but I only gave them one more book to finish the Tao trilogy.
And this was the point where Angry Robot was really shaky, right?
They got shaky summer of 2014. 2015 right now. So yeah, they got shaky summer of 2014. But by that time, I had already sold Time Salvager to Tor. So I sold them Time Salvager off a 35K partial, I think in July of 2013.
And those of you that aren't familiar with the term partial, it's when you've written only part of the novel and you show them the part of the novel and they read that and they go, oh yes, we think this will turn out great, so we will pick this up now.
Yeah.
That's how I sold my current book right now as well. Sea of Rust was a partial.
Have you ever felt was there a lot of pressure when you were finishing that book?
I start finishing the book on Tuesday when I get home. And I'm trying to avoid the pressure, but yeah, there is a lot of pressure.
It's a weird kind of pressure.
It's weird. It is, because you're like, I've got this great idea, this great book, and they're like, yes, we want it. And you're like, awesome. Holy shit, now I have to write it.
You have to. Okay. It's a different kind of pressure because on one hand, if you sell it on spec, if you already have the manuscript and they buy it, at least you know they like the book. They might want some changes in there, but they like the book. When you sell a partial, they like what they read, and there's expectations that they'll like what the whole thing when it's finished. I was so stressed out from that when the contract came in, a part of me for like an hour was like, you know what? If I don't fucking sign this thing, I don't gotta finish the book.
I had the exact same.
Did you?
Yes, yes I did. And then the thing is that because of the way I have my deals, I'm published separately in the US and the UK. So I got the one first, and I had that moment where I'm like, you know, I could just turn this down and just give it to them when I feel like it's done. But then it's like you look at all the zeros and you're just like, okay.
You must have more zeros.
I don't know about that, but dude, any zeros are good zeros. So, but yeah, then I signed it, and then 3 months later, the UK contract comes in, and my wife's like, "You could have signed that," and I'm like, "I have to. I don't really have a choice. I have to turn that book in anyway, but signing it means I have to do it."
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a very weird. It's very different than when you turn in a full book, and very different from when because we. This is really strange that we had never actually sat down and talked about the specifics. But you and I have a lot of the same specific things going on because I was signed to a 2-book deal, and I gave them 2 books. And they want a third, but then we renegotiated for a third. But you turn in that first book and you sell it, and you're just like, yes, I'm a writer now, this is great. And they want another book, and there's that pressure, but it's not this kind of pressure.
Right, yeah, it's not the same as I sold, a 2-book deal, I sold 1 book, they have the book, they like what then I'm writing the sequel.
Yeah.
And then I have 1 year to write the sequel, that's expected, and you're ready for that.
Yeah.
But when you write a partial, then it's just, it's a really morphed kind of like,
I don't think I ever want to do a partial again.
you know what? All I want to do is partials now.
Oh, really?
And it's not because I still hate that pressure. I just hate finishing books without getting paid.
That's good.
There's something when I go, I'm writing this for free, damn it. They might not even buy it. I can't take it. And I tout just like that, by the way.
So there's a gentleman back there that clearly had a question on this.
Yeah, I was just wondering, have you both figured out exactly how long it takes you to write a book so that you can judge the negotiations with
There's no such thing. Every book is a different beast. There's some books that take you, my first book took me 2 years writing on nights and weekends. My second book, I wrote the first draft in 2.5 months. And it was garbage.
It's still a draft.
Yeah.
All drafts are garbage, okay?
Yes.
All first drafts are garbage.
No, but quite literally, I had to rewrite the entire second half of the book, completely different ending, completely different storyline. It was because of the pressure that I had on it, and I was like, I have to hit this deadline. I promised them the book in September, and it's August, and I'm gonna give them the book in September because I'm not gonna be late. Because at that point, I had not heard Patrick Rothfuss's magical phrase that every editor in the world hates right now, which is it can be late once, but it can suck forever.
Patrick Rothfuss lives by a different set of rules.
Yes, he does.
He's like a magical, he's like a magical elf in this other realm that has different physics.
He's the lottery winner of writers. He hit the lottery by having a huge book right out of the gate that blew up into a second huge book, and he's been going around. I mean, the second book was published in 2010, 2009?
He has an established pattern of 4 or 5 years in between books. I mean, his first book came out, 2006?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's...
But the other one wasn't that long.
This is longer, yeah.
Yeah, this is much longer. And the thing is he's still going around, he's still selling out, crowds with A Night with Patrick Rothfuss, and he still goes to conventions and is a top tier guy. He's put out 2 books, and yeah, he gets to play by completely different rules.
Yeah.
He's been working on this book for years.
And in the meantime, he put out that little novella.
Yeah.
The world's most expensive little novella.
Oh, was it?
And it's a great story, but you know what? Patrick can do that, because that's cat rules. We're living by cat rules here.
Yeah. We don't live by pat rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're actually the first author that I've heard of admit to writing a rather extensive outline. Most of them just say, oh, I'm just a pantser, you know. But it was really helpful for me to hear that because my outline ended up being about 2,000 words long. And I was wondering if you could just talk about your process and how you either keep it from being longer or keep it, I don't know, just talk about that.
Well, I mean, the reason I used to be a pantser, and the reason why I moved to outline form is because I like to use many points of views. I mean, the Lives of Tao was one point of view. I pants the whole thing. Rebirth of Death of Tao was 3 points of view. Rebirth was something like 4 or 5. Time Salvager is like 4 or 5. And when you have 4 or 5 points of view, you have to, be really organized because these different plots have to, intersect. They have to, mean something to each other, or you're just writing 4 separate books at the same time. So what I do is I write, like, for every chapter, I divide by chapters. So what I do by every chapter is I'll write maybe 2 to 3 paragraphs on what I want to happen here. So it'd be a scene, it'd be, action scenes are always like action result. But everything else is this, you're discovering this, you're learning this, these characters do these things. And then I would write basically the plots, well, I used to write them all separately. So I would write one whole plot first, and another plot, and then I would integrate them together and find the points where they intersect, and find the points where they reinforce each other. That's very important for me when I have different, like 4 or 5 different points of views is, if they're separate, but they have to reinforce each other so that, it's not just 4 or 5 different stories. So after I do that, and I have maybe a 15,000, 20,000 word outline, I would have it on Scrivener on one wall, and then I'd write on this wall. And as I'm writing, I would always learn, like, new things come when you're writing. You're like, oh, I should add this, and that would, 2 chapters ago, I should add that little tidbit about this, or this detail about that. And instead of going back and actually adding it in, I'd find that chapter that I want to add it into, and I go, and I leave a little italics thing, add this information, add this character, or whatever. So I would be adding notes onto my outline, because I never want to stop writing. So by the time I finish my draft, I have a whole bunch of notes with my entire outline that I can go back and start editing. Does that make sense? It's kind of like this convoluted process that I've organically come to, and I think it works for me.
The thing is a lot of writers actually outline. They just don't often talk about it. There's a weird thing between pantsers and outliners in that both groups kind of look down their nose at the other, and so pantsers are like, pantsing is how it is. You just kind of write and get into it, and a lot of people who are very, very detail oriented like you are, in outlining, tend to, and I say tend to, not saying putting words in your mouth, but tend to be like, yeah, no, I pantsing, it's just I can't just sit down and just type like that. I need to actually know where I'm going. I can't just make it up as I go along. And the truth is, when you break it down, neither is better than the other, because they're both going to take you the same amount of time. The amount of time that me and Wes spend outlining our work beforehand is the amount of time that pantsers end up spending rewriting at the end when they have to fix certain points.
And also, there's a lot of hybrid involved. I mean, people will when I first start a new idea, I will pants 3-4 chapters just to kind of get a feel of the setting, of the characters, of the narrative, and then after I feel like I know my characters very well and I know where it's going and I think the high concept works, then I'll go back and then I'll start outlining. And then maybe for the first 20% of the book, I'll kind of go back and forth and do both. And then once I'm ready, then I outline.
Yeah, see, I outline all the structure, I know what the ending is, I know what all the major beats are, but I don't know all the little stuff in between, and that's the stuff that I pants, right? Where it's just kind of like, I know I have to have, you know, this sequence here. I don't outline what the romantic sequence is, I just kind of get into it and feel the magic of the moment. But I always know what the end game of that
And
is.
you like a nice shell around everything and you just kind of fill it in.
Yeah, I never sit down and write a book or a movie that I don't know the end
Try
of.
that next time.
It gets the fun that the pantsers talk about, but you never end up with.
You'll meander and like get like lost out somewhere
Yeah,
else.
no, the problem with my second novel was I was under that deadline and I didn't have all that stuff worked out, and that's why my ending was terrible. And then when I had to fix that novel, what I literally did was I took every chapter, I said, okay, let's go back, let's go the screenwriter route on this. Every chapter I wrote out on an index card, wrote out the title and the various beats that happen in it, and then put it all out on my table, and it was out on my coffee table for 3 straight days. And I would just sit on the couch and stare at it and try to move stuff around, see what I could do without, see where the holes were. And eventually I was like, oh, there needs something here, and there's these, and finally I figured it out, and I pulled out cards here and threw them away and wrote the cards, and then I was like, that's the book. And once I had that all structured, I then went and spent a month rewriting that book, and that's the second book, which many people tell me they like better than the first book. But it started out garbage, like unreal. Like it was actually a weird situation. Do you know Diana Gill?
I do.
Yeah, she was my editor on those books, and she was very sweet to me. And she talked to me and she said, she's like, yeah, it's not working entirely, and she wrote out a 2-page list of the notes on it, and they were very like vague, and I call her up and I go, you know, I gotta ask you, Diana, and I need you to be 100% brutally honest with me, or else we won't fix this book. I'm reading these notes, and you're telling me you think it's good, but what I'm hearing is you fucking hate this book. And she goes, I fucking hate this book. I said, good, great, now we have something to work with. And so we're like, so what do you hate about it? What do you want gone? And so we went back and she's like, I hate this character, and this storyline just seems a little too cliche, and this is not that great, and this could be better. And we put it together, and the book came out.
See, I don't think I can handle that. I would be like, okay. I'd be like, I'm gonna call you back in 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, except I don't think you've written a book yet that you've looked at the end of the book and gone, I don't know if this is any good, and then read through it again and go, I just don't like this. And it's a weird thing, because I've written a number of things where I don't like them, or I kind of hate them, or I think that they're just weak, and I can't accept that anybody likes them. And then people are like, this is fantastic, what are you talking about? We love this. I had a script like that where I hated the script, but I had to turn in the script, and I just hated it. And the production company loved it, and all the actors involved loved it, and they're just like, this is fantastic. And I'm like, all right, I don't think it's any good. I turned it in because you guys were calling me and telling me you were gonna fire me if I didn't turn it in, so here it is. And they really, and so it's a very weird experience.
Yeah.
But when you feel like you're not sure it's any good, and then you get the validation from someone you trust, like your editor, it doesn't stay.
I'll let you know that happened.
Yeah. When you stop writing fantastic books first time out, asshole, then maybe you'll understand the situation others of us have gone through. So okay, so we've gone through your Lives of Tao books. Then you write Time Salvager.
Yes.
Now, I've read Time Salvager. It comes out this week, right?
Comes out on Tuesday. I think she's got a copy. Hold it on.
Got an advanced copy?
That's the actual copy.
I need to get one of those. You sent me the uncorrected PDF.
Yes.
And
That's what I sent you?
yeah.
Oh, man.
That's pretty good. And I was really busy at the time, so what I literally did is I rigged up something on my phone. In fact, I could probably even pull it up now, to have my phone read the book to me as an audiobook.
Wait, they do that?
Yeah.
And so,
It's a device.
yeah,
I'm
so
behind.
So I literally sat and listened to your book over the course of a weekend, and while I was doing other stuff, and I had like housework that I needed to I had some stuff I had to fix around the house, and things like that. And I have, in fact, many of the scenes in the book are tied to memories of cooking dinner or various other things. But the book is fantastic. Like, it is a really, really great piece of science fiction, and this was one of the things I was really excited about doing the one-on-one on, because we can actually now talk about where the idea came from. Because you told me about last year, because we were here at Convergence, out on the porch right out there. Both of us were about 5 or 6 beers in, and
Don't ever drink with Cargill. Like, don't try to keep up with Cargill.
that's the rule. Drinking with Cargill is fun. Keeping up with Cargill.
I tried last year. It was not pretty. I just remember, it was like, what, 3 in the morning, and we're out on the balcony, some balcony area, and I'm like, I gotta go, dude, I gotta go. And he's like, all right, you okay getting back? And I'm like, yes. And I start walking, and then I look backward, and they're both staring at me because I'm doing
Walking is a stretch of the term. You were weaving, and my wife is just like, is he gonna be okay? I said, he was a stuntman, he'll be fine. He knows how to fall. Yeah, but no, we were standing right out there, and he pitched me the idea of Time Salvager and where it came from, and I'm like, well, that's pretty fucking cool. And so 6 months later, when you sent me the PDF and said, hey, do you want to blurb this for me? I'm like, yeah, I want to fucking blurb this for you. Let me read it. And so why don't you tell us where the idea came from and give us that.
All right, so, well, I'll start from the beginning. So I read an article about a South African photojournalist named Kevin Carter, okay? He took a very iconic picture of the famine in Sudan. And it shows, this is really sad, by the way, sorry. So it shows one of those, a kid crawling towards an aid station, and there's this vulture hopping behind him, like, waiting for him to die. And Kevin took his picture, and then he left. And he was like, look, I'm a photojournalist. My job is to record these events and not get involved. And he won a Pulitzer for this picture. It's a graphic, just moving picture. And then he committed suicide 11 months later. So, part of it, he's obviously got more problems than that picture, but that picture traumatized him. I read that article, and it really stuck with me. And then a few weeks later, I had a dream that I was a time traveler on the Titanic. And my job was to steal the Hope Diamond. So for over the course of about 3-4 days, I'm hanging out with the crew, I'm talking with the guests, I'm trying to locate this diamond. And then right when the ship is sinking, I wake up. And then I was thinking to myself, you know what? Stealing something right before a disaster happens is the best way to use time traveling. Because, I come in, I steal the resource, I steal technology, I steal the whole diamond, I jump out, the disaster happens, it covers my tracks. No paradoxes. The problem with that is you experience the last terrible moments of all the victims, and you can't do anything about it. So over time, it gives these guys, and in the book they're called Cronman, it gives these guys, PTSD, they're depressed, they're suicidal, they're alcoholics. And Time Salvager follows the story of a Cronman named James, who is a veteran of this, and he's on his last, he's on his last wheels here because he's been doing this for so long. And then on one particular job in the late 21st century, he meets a scientist, and she reminds him of his sister. She is very alive, very vibrant, and in a moment of weakness, before the platform she was on, the research platform she was on explodes, he pulls her out and kicks her back into the future. Problem with that job, with that is that's against the law. So now they're both hunted by the authorities. That's Time Salvager in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's the first act of the of Time Salvager, the basic setup, and then it gets sprawlingly epic from there. Like as I was talking to you about when I first read it, it was like when I was going along, I was like, I see where this is going. Yes, he's going to, he's going to have to save this girl, or if he doesn't save her, he's gonna try to go back and do it over again. Like it's one of those, and then you get to that point, and you're like, oh, well, that would have been an entire novel for many people, where the hell is this going now? And then you take us into this cool post-apocalyptic future where we have really kind of fucked things up pretty bad, and people have to go back in time to get technology that we've lost,
Right.
Because it's easier than researching it, and where that epic kind of thing unspools to is really, really fascinating. So where did that element come from?
You know, I guess I'm writing cli-fi, right? Do you think, would you consider that cli-fi? It's not a climate fiction.
Yes and no. I wouldn't really put it there because
Okay,
it's
an
a
element.
small element.
Yeah, it's a small element.
Because Earth sucks, and in fact we're spread out through the solar system in the book. But Earth really sucks. Like it's like, if I remember, there's like the ocean has a 6-foot level of sludge on it,
Right.
and you know the sky is just filled with clouds, and it's acid rain, and it's where the poorest people in the solar system have to live, and living there is just a terrible experience. But yeah, it doesn't really, you never really pontificate,
That's
you never
true,
really
right.
drive the narrative with it. The narrative is more about the ethical ramifications. If anything, the book is more about rampant corporate culture and the craziness that happens there. And you do some wonderful things that I won't spoil for anybody that are woven in very early and leave some lingering questions that when you're looking at, especially when you're reading an uncorrected proof, you're like, did he remember that he did? And then when you weave it back around later, it's like, oh, that was brilliant how he did that. God damn it, that's good.
Sounds like way better than I saw it. No,
Well, now you know I've read it, and I was bullshitting.
we were in the car the other day going to dinner, and he's sort of like, we got to talking about the elevator pitch for the book, and he just goes, "Oh," and I was like, that's the best pitch I've ever heard of my own book.
Well, when you have to pitch in Hollywood, you learn where to break that stuff down.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's one of the things that most writers struggle with. And if you want to be a writer, what a key skill to develop is learning how to reduce your own book down to 2 or 3 sentences and make it exciting and make people want to read it. And that's very hard for most writers because, you know, like what you just saw, he's like, would you call it cli-fi?
Yeah, you know what?
He hadn't even, it was an element of your book that you haven't even
Right.
thought about, just, you would toss that out in the pitch.
I had never had to even think about that until now.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't,
There's a
so.
camera there.
So,
Dang it.
no, this is great stuff, because most people, you know, writers have a hard time with that, because to us, every subplot is important, every minor character is important, and trying to explain my movie in a sentence,
Right.
how am I supposed to do that? But the thing is, you have to develop that skill to do that, and that's something that I've been fortunate enough to learn over the last few years, because I've been working with Scott Derrickson, who, the reason why Scott's been working in the industry for 15 years is he can walk into a room and bam, he can tell you what the movie is about right then and there. And watching him work, and it's brilliant how watching the train of how I learned this, because he learned it from his father, who was a used car salesman. So he grew up when he was 16 years old working as a used car salesman, and then got into Hollywood. Like, that's the perfect transition. And then he taught me the ropes of how to go about, you know, breaking that stuff down. But your book is so easy to sell because it's such a cool concept.
He says that, but I can't do it myself.
Well, I'll write you up a document. Here are the things you need to say. But no. So all of you, please, for the love of God, get a copy of Time Salvager and check it out, because I mean, it is a book that is written for convergence folks. I mean, that was what made me so happy when Wes had been brought on, and this was his book coming out the same week, and it's just like, dude, it's post-apocalyptic, time travel, romance, epicness. It's just, it's such a, I don't want to use the word mishmash or goulash, but it is such a great assemblage, if you will pardon the slightly haughtier term, of sci-fi elements woven together in a really great way. It doesn't feel like a pastiche. It's really like, here's all these great things I love about science fiction in one cool epic fucking novel. And it is, I like your other books, the Lives of Town books are fun. This is your first like great book. Like this is that book that people are going to be like, Wesley Chu, fantastic, amazing author. You have to read this book. It is just a great book. So yeah, so that's me blowing smoke up your ass. But yeah, so we've got a few minutes left. Are there any questions for Wes?
Which of your books was the one that you got optioned for movie?
Time Salvager. So it's the book coming out.
See, I avoided talking about that. Yeah, he had a little kind of snafu with the press release of that, because there wasn't a press release. Somebody found out about it, wrote about it as news, and it kind of got out there, and people weren't happy that it got out there. So
Yeah, that's my for sure. No comment is my new best friend about that.
which is why I'm talking about it.
I can't do anything about it.
That's right. Yeah, but so that Time Salvager was optioned by a company. Anybody else?
What are you working on next?
So right now, I'm working on, so I just handed in Time Salvager 2 March 1st, and I, past, 2.5 years, I've done two series, 2 trilogies, and starting in October, I need to start on The Rise of Io, which is the first book in the new trilogy in the Tau universe. So it's the next trilogy in that universe. So I'm taking a summer off. And when I say taking the summer off, I'm writing standalones. And I am so happy about standalones right now.
Standalones are a lot of fun.
Oh my God. I admit I have some serious fatigue, so this is like a perfect way for me to recharge. So right now, I'm working on a partial called The Recovered. Can't give out any details about it, but it has to do with, it's a love story about a guy who, I'm not gonna say anything about it. I can't even pitch about it.
No, I'll pitch it for you. I don't know what it's about, but I'll tell you that, no. Yeah, no, it's kind of weird, but it's, you had I guess to actually give a solid answer to that, you earlier this year announced a 3-book deal.
Okay.
And that's what you have, there was Time Salvager part of that, or was it Time Salvager 2 was part of that?
So I announced a 3-book deal, which I will start working on in October. First book is called The Rise of Io, and it's based in the Tau universe. So it's going to be based 10 years after the Tau universe, and basically it's going to follow the overall arc of the war between the Prophets and the Genjiks. But in this case, we have a new main character named Ella, and she's inhabited by a Quasing who is one of the most incompetent Quasings in history. So Ella is kind of like she's a con woman, she's scrappy, she grew up on the streets, she's everything that, she's a little manipulative, she's just everything Rowan isn't. And then Io, the new Quasing, is everything Tau isn't. Because, Io's that guy that makes really bad decisions. He's like, he's like how the dude that be like, you know what, Custer, we can take these Indians, or like, I think attacking Russia is a really good idea, Napoleon. I mean, he's like a guy that makes like the dumb decisions, but he's always been small enough on the hierarchy to survive. So his skill is he survives by being incompetent and useless. So it's a different dynamic between the Tau books, because we have a very strong female main character and this goofy alien who actually wants to defect to the Genjiks. And that'll be The Rise of Io. The first book is coming out fall of 2016.
When is Time Salvager 2 coming out?
Time Salvager 2 is coming out May of 2016. I hope. The book's done, and this will with my editor, and he might come back saying, give me like 3 pages of vague notes.
And then you'll be like, this is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And then you'll have that cry.
And then I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's just, I like when authors release books, I understand the writing process takes longer, and the whole publishing industry. Like, read my authors. Or,
What are you trying to say?
hey, you got Sinister 2 coming out next month, so that works.
Hey, I actually have a book coming out this week too. I'm in an anthology, so.
Look at anthology, what is it?
Oh, Blumhouse Horrors. Blumhouse, the studio that produced Sinister and Insidious and the Paranormal Activity movies, got a bunch of its directors, writers, and actors together to all write horror stories. And the theme was horror set in a city. And originally they wanted to call it Nightmare City, and then they went with Blumhouse and Horrors. And so me and Scott wrote a novella called The Clean White Room, and other people in there include Eli Roth, Ethan Hawke, Mark Neveldine, part of Neveldine and Taylor, the guys who directed the Crank movies and Ghost Rider 2, and has another movie coming out, I think later this month. But yeah, it's a really great collection of folks. And then later this month, I'm in a second anthology, which is a Clive Barker approved anthology of short stories set in the Nightbreed universe, based on the book Cabal. And there's a lot of great people, Amber Benson, I always forget her name, but really cool, somebody we end up hanging out with a lot, and I remember like 10 minutes an hour. God damn it. But yeah, that comes out on the 28th, but yeah, so we've got those. And then Time Salvager is out Tuesday. Any last questions? All right, well, thank you guys so much. Wes, thank you for coming out from Vegas.
So I will see you all next year, hopefully.
Yeah.